Rave here. I guess I haven't been on for a while. Kind of got, the same old, same stuff kind of going on. Which isn't any very much stuff at all, I guess. Just taking it easy. Doing the weekly meditation sessions and series, put them all together. Culminating in the loving awareness meditation. It's like Christ, Krishna, Buddha, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, and he was in the mood of love of Godhead. The Radha actually means worship, to worship. Radharani is Krishna's internal potency, spiritual energy. So it's really associated with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. The setting up camps and moving around, going to temples, the Jagannath temple, the Rath Yatras. If you read Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's the Rath Yatra there. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spending himself into 7 Mahaprabhus and was chanting in each one of the 7 kirtans and the different carts, the Subhadra, Baladev, Subhadra, Lord Jagannath. Certain, associates were able to see this, and those who were within each kirtan, just like when Krishna is with each gopi or Krishna is with each cowherd boy, they're having lunch together. Or Krishna is with another aspect of his jivas and their various spiritual forms in the spiritual world. They believe that they're with Krishna alone, when Krishna is simultaneously in his super consciousness with every jiva, every self-realized soul in Krishna Loka, and all his various aspects throughout the entire, complete, unlimited, ever-expanding spiritual sky, and within each and every atom, within each and every universe. Mahavishnu's Yoga Nidra. He opens his eyes, and the Kasta Sambhu is the glance. His Sambhu is the manifest, impersonal first initiation of Lord Shiva, or Sambhu, within the material universe, and impregnates Prakriti, Maya, Mother Durga, with the living entities are injected into the womb of material nature. So we're talking about the super consciousness thing. So, the thing is, you have to remember Brahman, Paramatman, Bhagavan, Iti, Sabdite. The whole idea is to develop love and love of Godhead. No other impetus except for the love itself, or the love, and the lover. And it goes in both aspects. So if you're to say that both are the lover, both are the loved, and both are the love, it's happening simultaneously. Is that was in my letter about Shri Rush, is that they were saying that sometimes Bhakta has a tendency to forget that God has an affinity towards the Bhakta as well. Rather than he's the object of worship, he does things in a silent ways. We know he exists, we believe he's there. A lot of people think we're fools. We think we have a pretend friend. So, pretend friend for adults. But basically, it's an object of meditation, and then various meditation exercises. So you want to remember, you don't want to disassemble Govinda. In fact, I think that's what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati used to do whenever he saw someone who was another yogi, who was more into meditation. There's the different schools of thought, and I'm going to go ahead and organize those and post those, as that Deepak Chopra was also defining this, the different schools, the Advaita Veda, different aspects of non-dualism and dualism. A karmi is actually really someone who follows the religious Vedic principles, although they have materialistic desires to be fulfilled. And then Bhakta, he just wants to serve, just for the purpose of serving. He's, what Lord Chaitanya says, and Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, but he's saying, like, I'm neither Brahmana, nor Brahmachari, nor Sannyasi, nor Grihastha. He's saying he's not any of these external physical manifestation type of awareness or identities that We're transmigrating through 8 million foreign endowed species life. So we're actually neither of these. The specific designations, human, animal, male, female. We're actually none of these. And then there's a question that was in the yoga system. One of the devotees were asking Srila Prabhupada about the soul, the jiva, 1/16,000th the portion of the upper part of the hair, which is atomic in size. Right? So there's given this measurement. It's also given the same measurement in the Gita Upanishad as well as the Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada points out in his elaborate and scholarly purports. And these purports are very well organized from the conclusions of the previous acharyas that Srila Prabhupada did extensive research on these verses for these purports to present the conclusion of the previous acharyas. I guess there's a school of thought when someone thinks they have some sort of realization, or someone believes that a certain person has some realization, maybe they might be encouraged to write. And then one Muni is considered superior to another Muni. He has to defeat other Munis with his philosophy. But truth is truth. It does not change. It remains constant. Not like the conceptions of the day, like less than 200 years ago, the world was flat. Witches and vampires roamed the earth. Which were basically, conspiracy theories. Projections, seeing through lenses, microscopes, telescopes, all heresy astronomy, all heresy science, to apply sulfur onto the sticks and to strike. So anyway, different conceptions of the day. Truth is truth, and it does not change. So that's the whole idea. But there are the different schools of thought, and there is a gradual evolutionary progress. And the Vedas, the Vedanta Sutra does go about explaining the Supreme in a specific way. And all these things are true. It's just that many millions of years ago, the human intellect was so superior that they understood that they were actually really speaking about a supreme being who has transcendental eternal senses, has eyes everywhere, eyes and nose. And in fact, I never mentioned this in the Ishvara Upanishad where he says he has his hands everywhere. And Ramdas has been talking about this, how we're the parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He says we're like the fingers and toes, the hands of God. You know what I mean? It's like the machine screw is important and is part of the machine as long as the machine screw is in the machine doing what it's supposed to be doing, holding something together. But as soon as that machine screw falls out, then that machine screw really has no value. Rabbi was talking about take 1 0 or a whole string of zeros. There's still zeros, it's still zero, and add just 1 to the beginning of the string and all the zeros, and what have you got? All of a sudden you've got value, extra added value. So we're actually really talking about this and discussing these exponentials. At the atomic and the macro level, macro and the micro, that which is very small and tiny and that which is very large is actually really the exact same thing, moving out into time or moving back inward into time. But we're actually really talking about the exact same thing. Kishara Dakshay Vishnu lives in Swaitvidweep, which is the North Star. He's within each and every atom. It's the exact Kishara Dakshay Vishnu. Now Lakshmi is serving Vishnu eternally, always worship his feet. Krishna and Vishnu is always being worshipped by the demigods. The demigods go to Swaitvidweep over here at the shore of the Milk Ocean and chant the Purusha Shukta and worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All this is all within your heart. So there's certain Vedantic verses. I think this was actually in like Mundaka Upanishads, different Upanishads I was listening to. I want to pull them out and start listening again. But they're saying that if somebody that thinks that the universe is outside of themselves, then they actually really do not have any knowledge or do not see or cannot see things as they are. That the universe is both within and without, and the macro and the micro. And this is actually all really within the Yoga Nidra of Mahavishnu. And then millions of universes are becoming manifest during his breathing processes, which he breathes out and breathes in, and which constitutes the actual duration of the actual life of a universe. And then even then there's subatomic or sublevels, subcategories of manifestation and unmanifestation within each and every universe that correspond with the day and the night of Brahma. But during the night of Brahma, then universal dissolution takes place until his morning when he again creates. So there's, the major creation, you got the secondary creators, you got the different categories of manifestation and unmanifestation of creation every morning in the life of Brahma. So there are a lot of different aphorisms. But in the past, the human intellect was so dynamic that it was just really a given that you were really talking about a being in which the aura, God's aura, which are basically jivas, living souls, living entities, just like you and me, are his Krishna shine, his sunshine, his Krishna shine. They're living entities. Not only that, but he is completely super conscious of this as himself, is that he cannot be separated from Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. It's completely inseparable. It's the exact same personality, the same exact super consciousness, the exact same love. So if you want to say that you can be with, or with falsely identifying yourself as being the super conscious Vishnu, is that if we were to be within and without a universe which coexists simultaneously within dualism, it's a Chinta Beta Beta Tapa, simultaneously one and different, is that we're Satchit Ananda. Krishna is Satchit Ananda. So Prabhupada was explaining this, that if you have a gold mine, and the whole entire expanse of the gold mine is gold, and it's of massive value, and then one tiny little atomic particle fragment, of gold, would be compared to the jivas. In chemical composition, it's still gold. Same thing with the ocean and seawater. A drop of the seawater, if you were to analyze it, in fact, that's how they do analyze it, because I don't think there's a microscope big enough to put the whole ocean in it, to look in it in a microscope. Boy, that would be an awesome trip, man. Miniaturize the entire ocean and put it under a microscope and really check it out. Well, the yogis, they can create planets, they can roll up the universe just like they're sleeping bag. I'm quite sure a sophisticated scientific yogi could probably wind the whole ocean up and stick it under a microscope. Check it out. Maybe take something really, really small like the atom and really look at it with the Hubble telescope out in outer space. There you go. It goes in both directions. So, it was a way that, Einstein time and space is described, that the farther you move out into space, you move out into the future. And then the more that you would move internally into yourself, you would be going into the past. And maybe in a lot of ways that maybe kind of explains why, my friend Bruce, it does look like I've got signs of aging. It doesn't actually look like I'm still just a little kid or whatever. They're four Kumaras, they never grew up, they're still babies. There's yogis in India, they're over 700 years old. They go to the Alamad Yogi conference every 7 or 14 years. And, they live in hardware. You never really see them, they're always just in meditation. It's a breath control in the prana and the heartbeats. You're only allowed so many breaths, so many heartbeats throughout your life. So they're retaining their life and preserving their bodies according to retaining and neutralizing the breath and the rakaka, or neutrality. And actually, slowing, very severely slowing and actually stopping the breath and the heartbeat. And that way prolonging their life. And appearing to be very young. So, if you were to move internally into yourself, into the atomic dimensions, you're actually going back into what would be considered past. Although this is all within the present. And if you're to move out into space, you're moving out into the future. So that's why,
My buddy Peter, he always used to say this. They changed the birth certificates of the astronauts to be 3 days older or something like that by the time they came back, or something like that. So, some sort of continuing with the space-time logic thing. So what was it? Yeah, so I haven't been on it, but that's what I really want to talk about is that the material energy will kind of bark back at you. Some eyes will blink. Certain things kind of show up. No accidents. Some sort of dialogue will take place. That's what I keep thinking about this infinite loving God that we meditate, we think about. And then when they talk to us and the language is a little bit strong, you kind of think, where happened to all that infinite compassionate love? I know God's not a devil and he's not a demon, and it's like, there's like all this other stuff too, they all exist, and the only reason they exist because they're within him. It's like Prabhupada was saying, where does sex life come from? Did it fall out of the sky? Is this something we have that the Supreme Being does not have? So he's saying, everything that exists within the Supreme. Is that there's a banyan tree in which its leaves are upwards and its branches are down. Oh, its roots are upward and its branches are down. Now, where do you find such a tree? Find a tree reflected on a river. Where you have the real tree, you have the river, and you have the reflection of the tree. You may feel like this. So you have the roots upwards. There's roots upwards and its branches down. Here would be the branches, the roots. And so the material world is reflected on desire. As the ocean and this river of desire. And its leaves are the Vedic hymns. They're transmigrating through the various species of life associated with the 8,400,000 species and the three modes of material nature, Rajas, Tamas, Rajas, and Sattva, goodness, passion, and ignorance. And according to sacrifices, one is receiving awards, and according to lack of sacrifices and adverse material activity, one is going downwards into lower species. And it's all suffering. From the highest material planet down the universe, all is a place of suffering wherein repeated birth and death take place. Even the demigods on the heavenly planets aspire to be a human being on this earthly planet. Now, there is a planet in heavenly planets, and I keep referring to this one as Tapaloka. Well, it's Tapaloka, Jnanaloka. It's the Tapovana. It's the forest. So in Tapaloka, it's a forest. The yogis can go there and finish out the duration of their yoga and sacrifice processes in order to be eligible to enter into Brahman or to go into the spiritual sky, to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and its various svarups. One of the common perfections would be to achieve the same bodily form as the Lord, in the way that you can tell the difference between the actual Supreme Being and all the self-realized living entities there, is that the Supreme Being, Vishnu, Narayan, Janardana, Keshava, they have a marker Shrivas. It's some white hair. And there's a story about where that marker Shrivas came from. I believe it was Brigham Mooney. He tested Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And he actually kicked Vishnu in the chest. But and Vishnu didn't curse him. Brahma cursed him when he insulted Brahma. Shiva cursed him when he insulted Shiva. But Vishnu, he goes, this is the eternal place of the sitting heart of Lakshmi, goddess of fortune. He didn't curse Brigham Mooney. He just accepted it. He goes, I deserve it. He just accepted it. So that way Brigham Mooney was able to tell who was actually the supreme in the trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So, like that. So anyways, yeah, it's just pretty interesting stuff, Oh, what was it? So, yeah, you want to be very careful not to dismantle Vishnu, Govinda, disassociate his limbs and his senses, his mind, his intelligence, his eyes, his legs. Don't want to dismantle or disassociate the limbs of Govinda. It's a very severe offense. And maybe, it's open enough to be able to accept your own, so someone keeps coming to mind as Guna Avatar, but, to accept your Ishtadev. You know, whatever the form of God that you have accepted throughout your upbringing, whether it be Jesus Christ, Jehovah, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, Ram, Chandra. You know, the avatars mentioned Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Varaha. You know, the Guna avatars, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. You know, but to know exactly who is supreme, of course, every religious system proclaims that their religious process is supreme. You know, we don't want to disrupt that, you know, but when you actually really understand who is actually really supreme, what the Vedantas will actually really say, what is actually supreme above all the other supremes. You know, it's classifications, it's a gradual process. But we don't want to disrupt the actual evolution of the jivas. As it says, and that was another thing. I did this thing, some courses in caregiving, end of life caregiving. And if I approach someone and go, man, this person's been eating meat their whole life, they've been engaging in illicit sex, they've been taking intoxication, this guy's an alcoholic and a drug addict. What type of preconception am I bringing to the table? You know, you can't be a caregiver like that, because that's not the way it works. You have to be completely neutral. You know, in fact, my compassion and my caring for someone so much that, you know, I don't know if I can actually really get past that. You know, but I guess maybe these things aren't any of my concern. I just have to put it in the hands of the Supreme. They actually understand that everyone's carrying out their karma. And the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says all living entities are engaged in their respective positions. In the external energy, internal energy. They're involved in yoga, meditation, religiosity, or adverse external material activities, which are, you know, we understand is creating more karma. Everything has a reaction to it. Everything has a reaction, but it's that reaction which removes reaction. But it isn't anything by our endeavor. It's by actually gaining a blessing. The mercy of the Supreme, who is the only one who can actually really remove our karma. But we can work in such a way as that we don't continue to accumulate adverse reactive activities. You know, be a vegetarian. Krishna only eats food in sattva guna, so offer your food to Krishna. This way you spiritualize your external existence. Krishna says, think of me, worship me, become my devotee. Mad Baba, Mad Bhakta. What's the other one? You know, the very last verse of Bhagavad Gita. It's like, okay, make your decision. What are you going to do? You know, and just surrender to me, abandon all other activities, all other thoughts, other systems of religiosity and yoga, and just worship me. That way you'll come to me. You know, that's what Krishna says. Very last verse of Bhagavad Gita. In fact, Prabhupada was talking about this. Bhagavad Gita has taken lifetimes after lifetimes of scholarships and academic learning to try to understand Bhagavad Gita, you know, the words, the verse for verse, and the translation of the Sanskrit, and previous acharyas and the different conclusions of Sankacharya, Madhavacharya, Govinda Swami, Ramanuja Acharya, Jiva Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, you know, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. You know, what are the conclusions of all these verses of Bhagavad Gita? So you're talking about someone who's estimating that it could take lifetimes to try to understand Bhagavad Gita. And you're talking about spoken to Arjuna, who understood the whole subject matter in 1 hour on the battlefield. On a battlefield. Not in a scholarly situation, a scholarly temple yoga atmosphere in an ashram, peacefully thinking. He was on the battlefield. They're going to go to war. And he understood this whole thing completely and perfectly within an hour. So you're talking about what type of superior intellect you're talking about these people that had in previous ages. So anyways, yeah, that's another interesting thing too, you know, type of comparison. And the exponentials that we're actually really talking about the specific dynamics that are actually involved in this thing. So anyways, yeah, Roger Rave. Just remember, you know, what is it? Well, Prabhupada was actually saying that the inkwell sits on the desk, and the ink pen is inserted into the ink so that ink can be applied to the surface as its process and procedure of its specific use. Okay, or that the sleeping bag is in the mosquito net. Okay, now I'm quite sure you can put the sleeping bag on top of a mosquito net. It's not going to work right. I'm quite sure you can put the desk on top of the inkwell. I wouldn't sit on that desk. So I clean up ink all over the place. Your mom's going to get mad. You get ink all over your school clothes. And those are your uniforms. Hell yeah, you know. But, you know, it's Brahman tea, Paramatma, Bhagavan, Shakti. The Supreme has realized three phases of understanding: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Sat, Chit, Ananda, forever love in complete cognizance, awareness, and knowledge, lovingly ever after. In fact, that's like the whole aspect, which, you know, it's perception of love. The lover, the beloved, and the love itself, both are performing their functions as sending and receiving love simultaneously. The jiva is being loved by the Supreme, and he's loving the Supreme. The Supreme is loving the jiva, and the Supreme is being loved by the jiva. So in which way you can actually say simultaneously we are the loved and the beloved and the love. You know, within a specific classifications and a specific process of functioning and specific spiritual dynamics. So yeah, that's what we want to talk about. Do not disassociate or disassemble the body of Govinda. Right on.